So here we are. Stranger Things Season 4 has been out for the best part of 2 weeks now. Sadly, I had to space out this stuff and make Season 4 a separate video because we have to establish some sort of consistency with the channel. You know what, come on, we're trying to be a professional-ish thing here. To be clear, because I don't think a lot of people are going to last this whole video if I don't make a disclaimer outright, this is not a negative review of Stranger Things Season 4. Well, it is in a sense. But honestly, I think you'll be surprised if you just give me a chance here. I would also like to let you know, and I've not done this in a while, but I feel like I have to because I've seen how the internet is. This right here, that what you're going to be hearing, this is my opinion. I understand that the concept of opinions are hard to grasp for certain people on the internet, but as long as we're aware that you're in no way inclined to agree with me here, we're all good. So with that being said, hello there viewers, welcome back to Media 13. My name is Jordan, and today we are finally going to be looking at You'll probably remember that in last week's video, I said that if Stranger Things Season 4 was to save itself for me, it had to be big. You know, it had to recapture the magic that Season 1 and 2 had for me. Do you want my honest opinion? It kinda did, but it also kinda didn't. My interpretation of this season is going to be mixed and kinda all over the place because I have a lot of conflicting thoughts as of right now, and all of those conflicting thoughts are fighting over each other to be the ones that are heard as the main points. I think the bottom line, and probably the most damning thing about this season, is that it had a runtime of somewhere near 13 hours, and of those 13 hours, there's probably around an hour of television that I can confidently look back on and say, yeah, this was worth it. For me, that isn't a good blend. I mean, of course, you always have your standout moments within a show, but with this, those other 12 or so hours don't even strike me as stuff I ever want to go back to. I will give the season credit, however, because that hour that I mentioned honestly might be peak Stranger Things. And the crazy thing is, it doesn't feel like Season 1. It wasn't utilising just the stuff that I loved about Season 1. This hour of television that I loved from this season was combining everything and it was working. So I bet you're wondering what these moments actually were. Well, allow me to shock you here because my favourite arc or storyline in this show was actually the one that I was not expecting to love at all. Because I did not believe that this character's death last season was worthy of a fake out reveal. That's right, my favourite storyline this season was the Russians. Now this is where it gets even crazier because yes, I adored this, it felt fresh and yet it didn't feel childish or cartoon-like in nature. I still do not think the show justified keeping Hopper alive. I can admit that I enjoyed the story here, whilst also admitting that I still do not feel like they have justified telling it. Season 4 did not do enough for me to make me content with how they handled the ending of Season 3. Character-wise, this season actually has a whole lot to repair a lot of bridges that I'd long since burned with certain characters. Acting across the board this season is probably at its best too. For example, I still do not like Michael that much, but there were at least certain points this season where I felt a little something towards his character. As opposed to Season 3 where for me at least it was a chore to invest time into thinking about him. Will is the character that has undoubtedly been undercut the most, which is genuinely very disappointing because if handled well, I feel like he's probably the most interesting character they have. He could be such a great character if he was just handled with even a morsel of care, but it's just blatantly obvious at this point that the showrunners just aren't interested in that. And honestly, that kind of sucks. Dustin and Lucas continue to rock. Honestly, they might be two of the most consistently written Season 1 characters that we have, along with Joyce, Hopper, Nancy and Steve probably being the others. Lucas is one character in particular that over the course of these seasons, and then specifically Season 4, has really grown on me. I love what they did with him this season, including giving Caleb the chance to act in what is probably the best acted out moment of the season. Jonathan, you know, he's his typical stocking filler self, and that, you know, it's completely pointless in him being there, but it's cool that he showed up. Erica continues to be fun, but she doesn't really get a whole lot this time around as compared to last season. Max, however, is a big part of this season's emotional angle. She spends a lot of this season fighting against the trauma of the events behind the ending of Season 3, and I love that. I can't wait for a TV show to finally have the character that's fighting the demons get the upper hand and overcome them. Newcomers are pretty decent across the board. Enzo, if that's his actual name, because I don't think his real name's actually mentioned, I just see the internet call him Enzo. is pretty fun. I do not like Argyle, and this is mainly coming from the point of view that I do not like these comedic side characters when that really feels like the only reason they're there. Like, a lot of these characters, they're written with funny moments. Argyle very much feels like he's written to be funny, and I just don't like characters like that. But again, that's subjective. Is he an awful character? No, I just don't like him. Jason, I feel absolutely nothing towards, even as an antagonist. It would be a shame if they used him as a kill and then expected me to care. Chrissy was fun until, again, she was killed after around 5 minutes of screen time, so I really don't care. Like, regardless of how good Stranger Things Season 4 could have been, I was always going to struggle with it, because I find myself just not caring about these characters anymore, because I don't trust this show to handle them well. Which actually brings us very neatly onto Eddie. Eddie is absolutely a highlight of this season. With around 30 total minutes of screen time, if that, he actually started to become a character that I really liked. The issue is that they make it very apparent very early on that Eddie is going to be suffering a case of the STSC, which for those of you who don't know is actually a pretty common disease within this show called the Stranger Things side character syndrome. In this show, it's got to the point where it's so difficult for me to really attach or care about any new character, because I know they're just being given enough screen time to justify being used as an emotional death. I joked about it in last week's video, but now it is apparently clear to me that this show has a genuine issue with killing off important characters, and they would rather just kill off side characters and call it a day. What annoys me even more about the decision this time was that they did actually have what could have been such a solid character, but they've decided that they had to sacrifice him, because the writer's room just doesn't have the balls to go a level higher and move on and give another character a chance to shine. No, instead of that, we get an emotional sacrifice that probably could have been avoided, and my entire emotional investment was all on Dustin. And if your big character death is only hinging on the fact that I care about the person sad that the person is dying, then it doesn't work for me. But hey, at least they killed a main character, right? You know, they finally took that step. Fair enough, it was Max, but they probably shouldn't have killed Max out of all the group. But at least they actually killed a main character.
I'm here. I can't feel it.
Are you fucking kidding me? This is the biggest bunch of colliding thoughts in my head, you know. I do not know how to feel about this. They've both killed Max, and they didn't. This is like the biggest fuck you to the criticisms that I have of this show that I have ever seen. They could not have delivered a bigger sucker punch to me, and when I tell you that I literally broke down and lost the ability to process shit the minute I saw that all unfold. And the same goes for Eddie. It's now at the point where I feel like he should still be alive, because there's still a story to tell with that character. But I don't want him back anymore, because it's another fake out. They keep jumping the gun with these characters. They keep doing things with these characters that doesn't make sense. Yes, you can argue that Eddie has a pretty, full circle story. I want to see more of this, man. I'm going to stop talking characters here, because I feel like I've spent quite a while doing that, and I do want to touch on other things. I just cannot figure out what the show is anymore. Episode 4 is touted by so many to be the best episode of this thing, but for me that's the one that felt the most lost. Like, all in one, we got an all-time great in terms of Stranger Things scenes, and also a shaky cam action segment in a house. This show really can't decide what it wants to be, whether it's action, thriller, horror, or some weird amalgamation of all of those to the side of stoner comedy. This would be completely okay if it was blended well, but at least for me, it isn't blended well. At certain points this season, it feels like the equivalent of trying to slap Ant-Man and the Wasp and Shutter Island together and calling those a great blend. Vecna is something that I wanted to talk about separately, people, because I understand I said I wasn't going to talk about characters anymore, but my god, I'm clearly missing something. Everybody's absolutely loving this guy, and I literally do not feel any different towards him than I do the Mind Flayer or any other antagonist this show has had. Also, why was the finale 2.5 hours? Honestly, Volume 2 is the biggest oversight this season had. I feel like I wouldn't even have that bad of an opinion on this season if it was just all released in the one, and I hate all-in-one dumps. Don't get me wrong, but something about this just screams, why did you delay this? But the first episode feels like a completely different genre. It's an action thriller moment. It's even complete with Eleven's Avengers scene. She pulls a fucking helicopter out of the sky. And then they also tried to give Brenner a redemption arc at the end there, which, what? Also, can we establish that the entire finale just felt, I don't know, pointless? Like, Nancy knew the outcome, Vecna showed her, which mentioned that she knew what was coming. So, if Nancy was aware that Vecna was able to see the future, meaning I am then aware Vecna can see the future, then why am I supposed to be shocked that they failed to stop Vecna? Honestly, it just saddens me more than anything else, because this show and this season did truly have potential at one point. Even until the very end, I was not writing this thing off because I just felt like it was going to produce something. Come the end of the season, I still can't quite figure out whether this show is reinvigorated or completely killed off my enjoyment. Even now writing this, I still don't entirely know, and it annoys me. My stance overall is a complicated one. Now, after some more thought, I do genuinely believe that this show and this season has pretty much severed my emotional connection to the show. I no longer have that same tie that I had, therefore the subheading that you have just seen there is accurate. This is very much me saying goodbye to Stranger Things, at least in a sense. The Stranger Things I fell in love with feels like a mere shadow of what it is now, and so anything I watch past this point is likely going to be met with a reaction devoid of any resonance. Notice that I said anything I watch, meaning that I am not saying this is me finished watching the show, implying that yet again this show has somehow filled me with the false belief that things can be different next time. In truth, I don't know if it has. And we're honestly not even going to know for sure until season 5 rolls around. What I know for now is that at least until then, I think Stranger Things and I are done. But are we ready for the real kicker here? Because if there's anyone here that still made it to this point in the video, I have a shock for you. Ending my care for Stranger Things isn't coming from a negative standpoint, rather preventing that. While I didn't enjoy Stranger Things 4 in the way that I would have hoped, something broke through my naive, self-centered attitude. To be real for a second and to drop any facade, this show isn't bad. In fact, it's far from it. As you want me to confuse you a little more, I think in many ways the show needed this. The show needed to move in a direction to sustain itself, and honestly, good for it, because I can't imagine the audience would have grown to this massive state if not for the push into this lighter, more self-aware almost style. And yes, I don't like that, and yes, in an ideal world, I would have kept the tone of season 1 and 2. I understand that my ideal world isn't what's best for the show, rather what I want. My ideal world with my ideal Stranger Things is not a world where Stranger Things succeeds in my eyes, and that's okay. Regardless of my hot and cold opinions on season 3 and 4, I can say wholeheartedly that I believe they did more for this show than season 2, or hell, even season 1 did to an extent. They turned this series from a pretty great Netflix original show to a worldwide phenomenon. And sure, it was probably going to approach that earlier on, but I do not think it would have reached these heights if not for this push. And even though I'm a bitter bastard and I come across as very negative about it, I can't fault that. You know, this is my flaw. I come across as if I'm just hating on this thing, when in actual fact I'm fully aware of the fact that it's doing what needs to be done. And I'm just petty. I don't like that. I can also say that despite these thoughts and opinions that I have, they absolutely in no way whatsoever tarnish the love or the adoration I have for season 1 or 2. Nothing is going to prevent me from thinking any less of everything that came before, nor do the negatives of season 3 or 4 void any of the stuff that I actually do like about them. Stranger Things is this ever-evolving franchise at this point. It's going to continue to evolve past this TV series. It's going to evolve into more books. It's probably going to get movies at some point. It's getting a spin-off. I accept that Stranger Things is changing, while coming to terms with the fact that I have not changed with it. My dislike isn't to say the seasons are bad. I'd hope by now that the last 2 videos have proved as much. It's just showing that the show moved in a different direction to what I had hoped, and that's okay. Our favourite shows are never going to do everything we hope for. It's up to us then as the viewer to make a judgment when those changes inevitably arrive. Fans of this show are not entitled to anything, and that includes me. So as a fan of this show, I'm taking responsibility and saying that I think this is where I stop caring. Because when the final season rolls around, who knows what's going to happen. Maybe I'll fall right back into the hype train again. Maybe in the time until then I'll have had a chance to truly reflect on season 4, and maybe I'll come around on it and look at it in a new light. Like I said earlier, we're truly not going to know until that time comes, but when it does come, in the hope that my opinion does change and I can look on this season more positively further down the line, I'll keep the door open 3 inches. Okay, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I have seen a lot of the Stranger Things fandom, like a lot of the bad side of the Stranger Things fandom since this season finished. And I was very nervous about releasing this video to the point of I thought of just not doing it at all because I didn't want to put up with it. I remembered my channel's pretty small, they're probably not going to see it, they're also probably not going to care. If you like this video, if you've made it this far, feel free to leave a like, it lets me know I'm doing something right with the content and lets me know you want to see more things like this. If you could be so kind as to also retweet the tweet on Twitter when I post that. You can also share it on other social medias with friends and stuff, that really helps the channel be seen more. And if you want to watch more videos, including the Thor Love and Thunder video that drops next week, you can hit that subscribe button, and to make sure that you're one of the first person to see the videos as they drop, you can also hit the notification bell. That would be pretty sick. I want you to get down in the comments and let me know what you thought of this season, because I know it's pretty beloved. I know a lot of people are enjoying it. I have seen multiple people have issues with Volume 2, but overall, people seem to be having a pretty positive experience, which I'm happy. I'm happy about that. Like I said, I'm not one of these people that is happy. I don't like the season. I'm not happy that I'm making a negative video on it. But I knew I wanted to make one of these videos, and when I realised that I didn't like it, I had to write this video in a way that had a message behind it rather than me just saying it's bad for the sake of it being bad, because like I said in the video, it's not. But anyway, that's been everything I wanted to say. My name has been Jordan. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next one.